Karen called cops over Master Key, failing. My son answered as the deputy on duty. The summer sun hung low over Willow Creek, painting the cul-de-sac in hues of gold and shadow. Karen Mitchell, the self-appointed guardian of the neighborhood, gripped her master key like a talisman. It was supposed to open every gate in the community, a perk of her HOA presidency, but today, it betrayed her. The lock to Mrs. Delgado's backyard gate refused to budge. Karen's face flushed crimson as she rattled the key, her voice rising. "This is unacceptable," she shouted, loud enough for curtains to twitch in nearby windows. Mrs. Delgado, an elderly widow, peered nervously through her kitchen blinds, clutching her shawl. Karen had always been a force in Willow Creek, her clipboard a scepter, her rules the law. She'd organized the neighborhood watch, enforced lawn standards, and never hesitated to call the authorities on anyone who dared defy her. But this wasn't about a noisy party or an unkempt hedge. Mrs. Delgado had been fostering a stray dog, a scruffy mutt Karen deemed a nuisance. When the gate key failed, Karen's mission to confront the widow escalated into a personal vendetta. She dialed 911, her voice shrill with indignation. "There's a trespasser in my neighborhood, and I demand action." Across town, my son, Deputy Ryan Carter, was halfway through his shift. At 26, he was the youngest deputy in the county, his badge still gleaming with the weight of new responsibility. I'd raised him to be fair, to listen before judging, but I knew the job tested him. When the call came in, Ryan's radio crackled with Karen's name, a name he recognized from my own stories of HOA battles. He sighed, adjusted his hat, and drove toward Willow Creek, unaware that this call would unravel everything. By the time Ryan arrived, a small crowd had gathered. Karen stood at the gate, arms crossed, her phone still in hand as she recounted her grievances to anyone who'd listen. Mrs. Delgado, frail and teary-eyed, stood on her porch, the mutt cowering behind her. Ryan stepped out of his cruiser, his calm demeanor a stark contrast to the brewing storm. "Ma'am, what's the issue here?" he asked, his voice steady but firm. Karen launched into a tirade. The key didn't work. The dog was a menace. Mrs. Delgado was flouting HOA rules. Ryan listened, his jaw tightening as Karen's accusations grew louder, more personal. "She's undermining our community," Karen snapped, pointing at the widow. The crowd murmured, some nodding in agreement, others shifting uncomfortably. Ryan glanced at Mrs. Delgado, whose eyes pleaded for understanding. He knew Hermie's son had mowed her lawn as a teenager, back when kindness was just a neighborly instinct. Then came the twist. A man pushed through the crowd, his face weathered but kind. It was Mr. Tate, a reclusive veteran who rarely left his house. He held up a small, rusted key. "This is the real master key," he said quietly. "Karen's been using a fake one for months." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Mr. Tate explained. Karen had swapped the original key to control access, ensuring only she could enforce her rules. The revelation hit like a thunderclap. Karen's face drained of color, her authority crumbling. Ryan's eyes narrowed. He turned to Karen, his voice low but piercing. "Is this true?" Karen stammered, her usual bravado faltering. She'd been caught, her power exposed as a fragile illusion. The crowd's murmurs turned to whispers of betrayal. Mrs. Delgado, emboldened by Mr. Tate's courage, spoke up. "That dog saved me," she said, her voice trembling but clear. "When I fell last month, he barked until help came. He's no nuisance's family." The tension broke. Some neighbors clapped. Others hung their heads. Ryan, caught between duty and compassion, faced a choice. He could cite Karen for filing a false report or let the community handle its own reckoning. He chose the latter, but not before addressing Karen directly. "You called for justice, ma'am. Now you'll face it." He handed her a warning, not a citation, but the weight of the crowd's judgment was heavier than any fine. As Ryan drove away, I waited at home, my heart heavy. He walked in, his face a mix of exhaustion and resolve. "Mom," he said, sitting across from me. It was Karen. She called about Mrs. Delgado's dog. I froze. I'd spent years dodging Karen's wrath, warning Ryan about her petty crusades. Now, my son had faced her, not as my boy, but as the law. He told me about Mr. Tate's revelation, about Mrs. Delgado's quiet strength. I felt pride, but also a pang of sorrow. Ryan was growing into a man who carried the weight of fairness, even when it hurt. The next day, Willow Creek buzzed with gossip. Karen resigned from the HOA, her influence shattered. Mrs. Delgado's dog, now named Hero, became a local legend. But the victory was bittersweet. Karen wasn't evil, just a woman so consumed by control she'd lost sight of compassion. Mrs. Delgado, too, bore scars, her trust in neighbors shaken. And Ryan, he carried the burden of seeing justice through, knowing it couldn't erase the pain. In the end, Willow Creek wasn't just a neighborhood, it was a mirror. It showed how fear and power could twist good intentions, how one person's crusade could fracture a community. Mr. Tate's quiet courage reminded us that truth could shift everything, even in the smallest moments. But the cost lingered. Karen's fall didn't heal the rifts she'd sown. Mrs. Delgado's dog was safe, but her heart still ached from the ordeal. And my son, my brave deputy, came home a little older, a little heavier with the world's weight. What do you think was Karen's downfall, justice, or did the community lose more than it gained? Share your thoughts on where fairness ends and vengeance begins.